are gonna make some tofu skin rolls for the first time. Get started with adding in some pork. So we have 1 pound of fresh pork here. Fresh ground pork. Actually, it's more than a pound, it's 1.44. Okay, let's make this work. I'm gonna dump everything into a bowl, and basically what I'm doing is making the filling. This is kind of like a spring roll, except the outer skin is made of bean curd sheets as opposed to spring roll sheets, so it's not flour based. Okay, so we'll start with that. Let's get hands washed and add a few things to this pork right now. So I'm going to start by grating some ginger. Grating ginger with a little microplane. Okay. These microplanes are really make grating ginger very easy. Almost makes me want to grate ginger more often. Easier than those box graters or something like that. Alright. Got probably a teaspoon there. Let's go a little bit more. Some people like to peel the ginger before they do this grating. For me, the skin just kind of falls apart and I just throw it out. So there's really no need to worry about peeling it beforehand. Okay, so here's my ginger. Make sure to get the good stuff from under the microplane. And then I will just add it directly to the bowl. Just like that. That's probably like a teaspoon and a half or so of ginger. The next thing I probably want to do is add some textural elements, because you kind of want your filling to have a bit of a bounce. So when you have spring rolls, I feel like the middle part, the filling, is all about having a contrast of textures, so maybe some crunch, some softness from the meat. So what I'm choosing for my textural element is bamboo shoots, bamboo strips from cans rather, and I'm just going to dice them really finely so that I can put it directly into my filling base. So taking a big cleaver just to make this a little bit easier, and I'm cutting this into long strips first, and then I'm going to dice it the other way. Making a little mound here and just some rough chops. Okay, so and by the way that this is going to go, this is going to be pretty healthy compared to your typical spring roll, because you're not going to deep fry this, or at least I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is steam this, and that will create just the softest outer skin for the wrapper. And so again, it's really important to have some textural contrast on the inside filling. So now that I've got everything cut into strips, I'm going to cut the other direction to get it into little minced bamboo shoots. You could of course use a food processor, but I feel you have less control over the exact shape in that case. You might have big chunks and small chunks, and I kind of like it better when everything is more or less uniform. So, all right, got some more rough chops. everything now is like this. So very finely minced, and I'm going to now dump it into the pork, the ground pork that I have here, which I haven't yet seasoned, so I'll do that in a little bit. And so we've got pork, we've got ginger. Now I'm going to do a little bit of carrot for the color. I'm the worst at cutting carrots though into tiny bits, so I will do my best. It's actually easier with a cleaver because the cleaver gives you a bit more to hold on to. There's heft to it. But the way I like to do it is just to cut it into long slices first on a bias. And then you can lightly stack this and then get it into strips. And then you can mince the strips into little minced bits. Okay, so it's like dominoes. You just hold the dominoes ever so slightly on a bias, then go in through with your knife to get it into long strips. I know this camera angle is not the best to look at for dicing, but you get the picture. Okay, so now I have these little matchsticks that look kind of like this, right? And you can just run your knife the other way and you can get smaller minces. I don't know if you guys feel like every day is super busy now because New Year, you know, work is busy, other things are busy. So really the time you actually have time for trying new recipes, at least for me, is during the weekends. And yeah, this is the first time I'm making this, so I'm kind of winging it a little bit. Okay, that's not perfect, but you know, it'll do. It'll do, I think. All right. So here we are, we have some carrots that we've just diced. And before I kind of call this filling done and start adding in the seasoning, I want to add one more textural piece to it, and that's going to be shrimp. So I don't know if you guys have tried dumplings with pork and shrimp. It's actually a really nice marriage of the two because pork is kind of the main base, but shrimp can give it that extra bounce. So I've got just a little bit of shrimp here, and right now they're whole, shelled, deveined, no heads. I'm gonna now just chop it again, really finely. And that is going to help me add a bit more of that textural component. You never find shrimp already ground for you, and that's probably a good thing. You can do a lot better when you do this yourself. You can control the texture, you can control the freshness. So again, just very roughly chopping with the cleaver. You don't have to be really precise because I just run my cleaver in the other direction a little bit later. Let me know also where you guys like to get your shrimp. For me, my favorite go-to spot is actually Costco. I like to get it with the head because then I have the option. Sometimes the head makes for a great broth. Sometimes it has its own flavor if you're using it in Chinese cuisine. It is going to take a little extra time because you got to deshell it, you got to devein it yourself. But I find it to be a super good deal, and when you get it already pre-frozen, it's really, really fresh. So that is definitely one of my favorite ways of getting shrimp. Zero De Niro says, I have a cleaver like that at home. They work so well. Yes, absolutely. It just really lets you hold on to both sides, and if you're not feeling particularly orderly and you just want to give things a rough chop, it's very easy. You're just not at risk of hurting yourself because there's so much heft to it. Highly recommend getting a cleaver if you do a lot of rough chopping. So, yep, just keep going like this. Fold the edge of the shrimp in. And keep going. Keep going until you get the texture that you like, basically. And what I found that if you actually err a little bit on the side of maybe not as fine, right? It's actually not horrible because, again, the bigger the chunks of shrimp are, the more bounce you're gonna feel as you eat the filling. So when I make wontons, that's another time where sometimes I like to put in shrimp along with pork together for the filling. I find that having bigger chunks of shrimp can actually really help improve the texture. Okay, maybe run my knife through it one more time. It's an arm workout for free as well. Edge pieces are where you might have the biggest chunks, so always go there and come back in if you want to get it more uniform. Okay, so at this point you can see the shrimp is pretty much pulverized. It's not uniform because I'm doing it by hand, but I think this is probably good enough. So I'm going to now dump it in with the pork. And I'm about to go on a mixing mission very soon, so I'm just going to try to scrape as much shrimp as I can off this cutting board. Leave no shrimp behind. That's the good stuff. Okay. So hopefully we are getting closer to making some comfort food here. Just a reminder of what's in here. We have ground pork, we have some ground grated ginger, along with all the juices from that. We have some bamboo strips and carrots, all minced for crunch and color. And then now finally some hand ground shrimp, effectively. Some shrimp that I did cut by hand. So, okay, gonna go wash my hands real fast. All right, and now let's start adding in some things to flavor this. This actually feels like a lot of filling, so I might actually have a ton left over, which is fine. I'll start by just adding in some soy sauce. This is going to be to taste. I just did quite a few gloves. I'll add a little bit of salt too, because I do think this is a lot of protein. I'm going to go on the shy side in case later on I need to, season again. I can always do it from the outside. After I've wrapped things together, make a sauce, for example. Let's add in a little bit of sesame oil as well. Okay. And I think that's probably good enough. So now I'm going to start stirring. Okay, this is where it's the real test of your strength. So I'm going to just go like this. Let's see, how can I make this maximally visible from the camera? Guys, this vertical streaming thing is really hard, I realize, because you can't really see yourself when you're doing the thing. You don't actually know if the camera angles are good. You really need a team of people to help you judge. So I have a second phone here just so that I can check what I look like, but this is some hard stuff. I want to get good at this, but I am definitely just getting started. Okay, so at some point you can see things are coming together a little bit. But what would be great is if you had this kind of all become a paste. And right now it's not looking like a paste. I'm going to keep going, potentially adding a little bit of water just to add some more moisture into this. Because ultimately you want this to be a cohesive blob. You don't want to have all the separate chunks all by themselves. So let's see. Adding a little bit more soy sauce because I do feel it's a little bit light on the color. And I'm going to add a little bit of water as well, just to give it more structure, give it more of something to hook on to, all the ingredients to kind of just get together. So stir. I don't know if you guys have been told this, but when you're making filling for dumplings or for wontons or anything, the old wives' tale is always to just stir in one direction. I think it is supposed to make things become more cohesive, kind of adhere it a little bit better. You're creating these long fibers, right, that kind of go in one direction. So I feel like that's harder to do, because then you're kind of using one muscle group as you're stirring things, but sure, let's go for it. Okay, that little bit of water helped, I feel, because now we can kind of see there's more, they're kind of sticking together a little bit better. I have some pretty big chunks of shrimp in there that I missed earlier with my cleaver run through, but you know what, that's okay. I'll let myself slide. It's the first time making this recipe. I'm going to add a little bit more water because I think that was going the right direction. Just kind of eyeballing maybe a couple tablespoons at a time of water, and then you just keep stirring. Stir in this one direction. Okay. So that's what it looks like, and I'm going to call that done for now and get to the wrapping part. So moving my cleaver aside, getting a plate here to get ready to put my finished wrappers. And just to show you guys what I'm using, I have these these are the bean curd skins that you can buy in a huge pack. I used this when I was making the Asian vegetarian duck recipe earlier, and it's basically the same thing, except those are round. These already come in square sheets. I had to cut them a little bit so that they are smaller and easier to use. They're not uniform though, because I didn't do this very well, because I also found a spot that maybe didn't look so good. I wanted to cut it out. If you have rips, you definitely don't want that in here. So let's imagine this is my sheet. It's a little bit on the smaller side, but that's fine. What I'll do is just take my chopstick and put this strip of filling on one side towards the center. You want to leave maybe a couple inches of space on either end, because ultimately you're going to fold things inwards, right? You don't want any filling to escape from you. Okay. So then I'm going to start folding. Okay. And I'm going to just fold it a couple times. And you can see it's actually a little bit drier than I thought, this bean curd sheet. It actually wants to rip on me as I fold the outside inward. So maybe what I'll do is just be a little bit gentle there. You can kind of tell where the sides are that are about to rip. It's like the sheets themselves are not created uniformly, right? There's some parts that are a little bit more brittle than others. So if you get to a part that is brittle, just try not to fuss with it. Just try to leave it open. I think nothing's going to really fall out eventually, because you're going to steam this, right? You're not going to drop this in oil and see things come out. So mostly I just wrapped it kind of like this. There's an open end because that open end was already starting to crack at the seams. Yeah, I'll just leave it that way. So I'll put the seam side down in my plate. That way it's going to, it's going to sort of give it a little more shape. And then let's move on and do a few more of these. I'm going to take a whole stack here and kind of have my assembly line going. I cut this part a little bit more long and rectangular, so I'm going to have the long side facing upward so I can put my filling on the shorter side. Okay, so again, just putting kind of an inch of filling. You can make it, play with this as well on your own, because you might find you like the rolls that have more filling, and you might find you actually like the ones with less filling. This is actually a perennial debate in my household. about, dumplings. Should they be big or small? My mom always liked to make dumplings really big because she said that's how you know you're getting your money's worth. That back in the day in China, if you went out and you got dumplings, there wasn't a whole lot of food around, so you might actually get dumplings that are mostly wrapper and not much filling. And you know what? Some of us might actually like it that way because the wrapper itself has quite a bit of textural interest to it, right? So not necessarily a bad thing. So play with this to see what you like. Okay, here's another challenge that I'm running into. These sheets, oh boy, they are easy to stick together. So I am getting into this point where these two sheets don't really want to separate and they are kind of just sticking together on me. So I'll do my best, but if it turns out I have two sheets wrapping one, I think that's not the end of the world. I'll be fine. It's still gonna be yummy. So maybe it'll just make this a little bit stronger. Okay. So again, just fold it towards the middle. And here you go, another roll. Lesson learned, I'm going to try to separate my sheets before I begin rolling the next one. So yeah, that's what trying a recipe is like for the first time. You are learning as you are going. So here are my 3 sheets. I think I do have them now completely separated. And let's do this again. All right, what are you guys doing on your Sundays today? How's the weather where you are? We're out here near Seattle where, you know what, we actually haven't been getting a lot of rain. People say that Seattle has rain all winter long, and I think we are so far getting away with it this winter. Okay, so there's that one. I'm gonna fold in. Yep, this one went much better because I separated the sheets beforehand. It's still looking a little bit brittle around the edges, but I'm going to just be gentle. And by the way, when you fold it in, if you make it more of a triangle in the front, it's going to be easier for you to fold it in. You're going to have less of a kind of weird shape on the outside. So there we go. That's another one. Maybe I can go faster at this point. Okay, here's another. I think I'm making it bigger because I'm getting impatient. That's the other issue. When you're cooking by yourself, there's no conversation to carry you along. So sometimes you're like, how can I just be done faster? Maybe I'll just make things bigger. Okay, so now rolling. Again, this one feels good. This wrapper is the perfect amount of pliable and it is working well for me. And I like this one the most because you can actually still see a bit of the filling from the outside. So let's see if we can replicate that. Okay. It's making me wonder if I should have gone with something that's not chopsticks to at least make this part a little bit faster. Putting the filling onto the wrapper. Okay. Not bad, right? So you roll it forward, give it that shape, and then tuck in the edges. This one's also one of those brittle ones. I'm going to try my best to keep it together. Okay, here we go. All right, it's 5 rolls done. We can keep going. Okay, so separating my sheets first. Are these bean curd sheets easy to find where you guys live? So I find that it used to be hard to get these. It used to be that you have to find these in the frozen section of your Asian grocery store because they do go bad if you put them just in the fridge. Nowadays it's actually not that bad to find. Ooh, okay, so some of these sheets just want to stick together. They don't want to separate. This is probably the same as what I had earlier, so let's see how separated I can get them. Feels like I'm doing origami now. Okay, there's some rips, but that's fine. They're around the edges. I'm not worried about things leaking from that. Let's do the same over here. That one's already starting to rip in the middle, but that's fine, I think. I just gotta make sure they're on the outer side when I roll. Okay, this one's very imperfect. That's totally fine. Let us play with it first. Again, just taking a mound of filling. I'm going to leave a little bit more room from the edges now because I know this sheet is pretty cracked up. It doesn't go very far, but you know what, let's do that. Okay. Rolling. Rolling, rolling, rolling. And then again, pull things inward. And here we are. It's probably best not to stack these, but I'm going to do that for now. And I'll figure out if I can unstack them when it comes to the steaming part. Okay. Sometimes when I make dumplings or spring rolls or wontons, I like to play this game of figuring out, am I going to run out of wrapper first or am I going to run out of filling first? I have no idea in this case. Definitely thought I had way too much filling initially. Now I'm just not so sure. Maybe I'm going to have more wrapper left over. Okay. Roll and tuck. And there we are. I think I am getting faster. Definitely am getting faster. Okay. This is actually very oddly calming to play with. I think chefs are the only people who are actually allowed to play with their food, right? Okay. This one didn't come out very symmetric, but that's okay because once you roll it up, nobody can tell the difference. little bit of filling left, and I don't really want it to go to waste. So what I'm going to do is take some of these smaller sheets that I cut. These are so small. I had to do that because there was a whole section of the sheet that was just damaged. It's like very badly ripped apart, so I kind of had to carve that out entirely. So now we'll do origami with something quite a bit smaller and see how that turns out. Maybe I'll even try putting in less filling, and then I can compare for myself whether I like it with more or less filling. This part is definitely not fun, just separating the sheets. Okay. Great. So now let's make some of these smaller ones with that little filling I have. If you're ever serving guests, it's probably better to err on the smaller side because then it feels a little bit easier to divide up into servings. If someone just wants to try something, they might not want to take a whole roll, right? This is almost like burrito size. These are more spring roll size. Okay. Folding upwards. Yeah. They're much smaller. They're almost just dainty and cute at this point. I have enough filling to make like one more after this one that I'm making. Hardly. But let's see how that goes. This last one might just be with all the little bits of bamboo and carrot that's floating over. Okay, this one wants to be a twofer, so let's just keep it that way. Make it simple. And fold upwards. I'm going to bring out a little spatula so I can start scraping the bits. Don't want to waste any of this filling. Okay. So grabbing all that I see from this bowl. Always surprises me how much we have at the end of the bowl. There's always more than you think there is. Okay, there we go. So now, ooh, this one's going to be a better veggie to meat balance. I kind of really feel excited for the taste of this one. And that's all we need to roll. Okay, so next job is to get the steamer going. And I'm going to rearrange this probably in my steam pot. So let's So for my steam pot, I'm going to start by adding in some water to the bottom, because otherwise you don't have the steam. And you know what, while I'm at it, I'm going to make some, since I'm going to use this as steam anyway, I'm just going to boil some squash at the bottom of it. This is food for my kid later. So, two birds with one stone here. Turn our stove up. And so I'm going to put a plate here. And I don't really want to overcrowd because I don't know this is going to do very well with overcrowding. So I'm going to just put in maybe a 2-layer set of rolls here. So I'll do that. We'll see how this turns out. I might have to do 2 batches here. In the other pot, I'm going to make a dipping sauce. Or maybe it'll be more like a gravy sauce. I haven't really decided. So I'm going to get some oyster sauce going in this pan. Eyeballing that, it was probably about 1/4 of a cup, 1/3 of a cup. Add some water. Take it up to a boil. And that's it. We're just gonna wait until this has already come to a boil, so I'm gonna set it down to medium. So I just wanna steam it. I don't need to furiously boil all the water away. Okay. Time to check in on here. Let's see. 3 of you are watching. Yeah, let me know how you guys like this format of video. It's my first time really trying to cook live. It's very hard to get the angles right, so I'm sure you're hearing lots of noises from different things, and also maybe the angles just aren't perfect. You're not seeing it all, but it's kind of fun. This makes it so I don't have to worry about editing later, and you know, we're just kind of talking through this as we go along. Okay, still going. Okay, I made the committed the biggest sin here of opening the steam pot while it's steaming. You should never do that. You're letting all the good steam escape and you're then taking longer. But let's just wait patiently, see what happens. Zero De Niro, thank you. Thanks for giving the feedback on the audio quality. I definitely need to figure this one out. I think last time I tried to do a live where I turned on the stove and oh my gosh, the stove ended up being so loud. We have an induction cooktop and it's changed how we cook everything. I still haven't figured out how to do it well. And it's just noisy because this is all like electricity powered. It has Bluetooth too. Like who needs that for a stove? But apparently we do. Okay, the sauce is coming along. It's a little runny, so I may have to adjust it in a little bit. So, well, this is not much fun, right? We're just watching the pot boil. What are you guys doing today? Talk to me. Talk to me so we can actually make this better than waiting for water to boil, waiting for food to finish cooking. Or not. Let's see. You can see my backyard here. We're supposed to have sun today, but at least we should settle for just no rain, which is good. It's gonna get freezing in the next few days, but I think we're still counting our blessings. We're having a drier than usual winter for now. Not much going on, yeah, I feel you. I feel like the holidays were just so busy, people coming and going. Cooking actually becomes more frenzied during that time, right? You don't have enough time to think about what do I actually want to eat. It's more like what can I cook to put food on the table in the fastest amount of time. And now the holidays are over, so we actually get to take a breather, calm down a little bit. It's wet here at the moment. Where are you located, Zero De Niro? Yeah, different parts of the world. I mean, California is having it hit hard with their wildfires there. So I have a lot of friends down there. Definitely, my heart goes out to them. Louisiana, yeah. You guys had a cold spell as well, right? In the southeast? Yeah. I feel like the weather is becoming more and more unpredictable nowadays. Okay, how are things looking? The sauce is bubbling. Tofu skins are still, they're still kind of see-through, so the way you know that it's done is you have to kind of see the tofu sheets become completely opaque and white. If they still look somewhat translucent, they're not cooked and we need to keep steaming. At least it's easier than timing things, right, I think. Sauce is a little bit too runny, so I think what I'm going to do is put some cornstarch together to create a bit more of a slurry. That's the oldest trick in the book when it comes to Chinese cooking. Go, get a little spoonful of cornstarch. And this is a good time to add flavor if you feel like you didn't season things enough. Obviously I don't know that yet, so it's okay to just do that later as well. But I'm going to take the cornstarch, add a little bit of water, just enough to make it mixable. And then in a little bit, I'm going to add this to the pot where I have made the cooking sauce. Okay, so definitely it's a slurry now. So taking it over back to the stove. Okay, I think I went the wrong direction. Now I feel like this is a little too thick, so I need to add a little more water. So let's go ahead and re-stir that together to loosen it up a bit. So you definitely don't want this gelatinous mess in your mouth. You want something that'll stick to the actual food, but you don't want it to be completely gel-like. Okay. I think that's good for the sauce. Taking a look here, nope, still not quite done. The sauce is basically done, so I can probably take that off the stove. And just to show you guys what the sauce looks like at this point, it's very thick, right? So this is something you can treat as a gravy and put on top of the rolls later. More waiting to be done here. Let's see. Let me feel like it can't be too long now. We should be almost there. We should definitely be almost there. So it's a matter of just waiting for this to be completely done. Say in 3 minutes, I'm going to open it and just pick one and see what it looks like. Because there's just no other way. What else is happening here? Not much. Thank you all for sticking with me. This is a long video and you guys are still here. Do you guys ever feel tempted to just begin the cleanup process when your food is cooking? I'm looking around me and I see all these dishes that are dirty and unwashed, and I see carrot peels that I've left behind. And if I wasn't actually recording live streaming, I would totally be washing up now, so that by the time I get to eat, all I have to figure out to do later on is to wash the bowls that I ate from. It makes things much, much faster. Slowly coming together. It's taken quite a while. All right, this is probably going to take a fair amount longer. It's not actually changing color as fast as I would have expected. So with that in mind, maybe I am gonna do a little bit of cleanup just to save myself some time later on. So. Wow, this is taking much longer than I would have expected. Much longer indeed. I'm going to take one out and see what it looks like at this point. Okay, so it definitely doesn't look thoroughly cooked on the outside. I think what I needed to do is probably add some more water. I probably can do that now, just to add some water at the top, because the skins themselves need more hydration. But the filling inside appears to be thoroughly cooked. It should be at this point after steaming for so long. So I'm going to unwrap it. Let's take a quick look at the inside. In fact, I think I can bite the inner layers. I think the inner layer is actually completely cooked. The color is opaque, like I mentioned. It's really good. So that's the filling. I think it could use a little bit more seasoning. So if I had my dipping sauce, this is probably when I would put it on. But overall, this is actually pretty easy to make. And it could be somewhat of a side dish, right? As you prepare your meal for the weekend. Oh, I love the crunch from the bamboo and from the carrot. It makes a huge difference. Now add some water. So I think it needs more than just a steam on the top to cook the whole thing. Okay. Yeah, I'm hungry too now. It's lunchtime. It's lunchtime. All right, so let's see, how would I actually plate this? So here's another one. I think that splash of water really helped. And what I would do here is just take a little bit of sauce that we made earlier. Okay, the sauce is still a little bit too thick, so next time, note to self, don't make it so thick and goopy. Add a little bit of sauce, add a little bit of green onion to add a little bit of freshness to it. And that's it. That's the finished product. So thank you all for watching. I will hit the stop button now since we do have to get ready to eat. Thank you guys. Bye.